Again. What's going on, man?
Shit.
We're just telling a story at the end of the day. You can enjoy a fully clothed, totally platonic cuddle session. Not sure what we're doing.
Are these lines safe? Yeah, we can literally say anything we want.
Talk mad shit.
Please continue to follow us. You can find us on all social medias.
All social media.
All social medias.
All podcasts.
Everywhere that you could listen to a podcast, we're pretty much there.
What's going on, man? Did we successfully manage to do that? See how it works. Check. Are you there?
Yeah.
And he's back. And he's back.
I mean, that sounded like trash on my end, but whatever.
Yeah, it sounded like trash to me too. The good news is that I can hopefully figure out a way to edit it out. So if not, then hey, guess what, folks? This is how we roll now.
Shitty theme.
That was
until the end of this bullshit.
I tell you, that's what we get for being, technologically advanced.
Right.
Fucking.
Just go ask some kid. Like, you got a neighbor kid, he'll be able to be like, oh, dude, you do this, click, 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 and it'll be fucking done in like 10 minutes.
Like, what are you, fucking idiots? All you got to do is blah, 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 blah. I know. I feel like I'm fairly savvy, but like in this whole setup and with the Zoom and then trying to bring audio in, like it's a whole nother world, man. So I am not savvy apparently.
Yeah, dude, I feel like I'm literally like 1 or maybe 2 weeks away from breaking quarantine and just going over there so we can record. Like, I don't really give a fuck at this point. Like, nobody else is apparently giving a shit anywhere else anyway. So
I know. It's
like,
crazy.
Like, so at this point, I'm just like, who gives a fuck, man? Let's just fucking do it.
Yeah. Well, just bear with us, guys, because it's coming soon enough, hopefully. But hey, we're not quitters. We're still fucking doing it. You know what I'm saying? Here we are. Like, we're figuring it out, and I'm sure most of you, hopefully listen to previous episodes before the quarantine started, and you know that we actually do have pretty quality audio when we know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah.
So throw us the fucking bone, and if not, fuck off.
Yeah, like we're having to learn this along with every other aspect of quarantine at the same time. So I think we're doing pretty solid considering.
Yeah, man. Hey, so I can't remember. I was watching the new Netflix episode of Tiger King. Did we ever talk about that? Did you watch Tiger King? I feel like we talked about it, but
yeah, I watched the fuck out of it.
What's your
and
dude? It's so huge. So go ahead. What do you think?
And by me saying I watched the fuck out of it, what I'm saying is we watched it.
Right.
I don't know, man. I feel like there's better Netflix documentaries out there. I think it really is a product of timing. Like, I don't think that it would have been anywhere near as popular if the whole world didn't just shit itself and grind to a halt the same fucking week that it came out.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I agree 100%.
I just, it's not that it's just not that compelling of a fucking story to me. Like, I think that chick totally killed her husband. I think that whether the Joe Exotic or whatever the fuck his name is, it's Joe Exotic, right?
Exotic, I think. Yeah.
It's been fucking almost 2 months since I watched it. I think he definitely wanted to kill that woman. But I don't know. The case itself seemed pretty circumstantial to me. But there was so much evidence online of him being like, "Yeah, let's kill that bitch." Yeah, it's like, it's kind of hard to be like, well, no, I just was,
I was joking. Dude, he literally took the, like, I'm sorry, like, you screwed yourself if you did it or you didn't do it when you had, like, the dummy of her, and then you literally blasted it with a gun, like a pistol. He, like, shot its head off. He's like, that's you, bitch, or whatever. My biggest complaint with it, and there's actually a podcast that did it pretty well, and I don't remember who did it because I didn't listen to all of it, but people are getting, these memes are funny as shit. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I've got a good sense of humor, and we crack jokes about dark ass shit. So I'm not knocking the memes. That's awesome because we need humor right now. But what people they're making this guy out to be this, goofy show-off guy. The dude was a horrible human being. Like, you talk to the people who worked around, and like the men the boys who he basically kept captive, and they're like, oh yeah, he totally fucking did it. Like, I mean, everyone was saying dude was a piece of shit, and so we're basically idolizing this just piece of waste of space, And the irony I do love, and they talked about it in the last episode, is that he's finally as famous as he wanted to be, but the motherfucker's locked up and he can't enjoy it. And I was like, now that's pretty cool. So that, for me, it's like, stop making such a big deal of this motherfucker. But it was an entertaining documentary, not the best. I agree.
I think the memes are better than the show, personally.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in people being funny about the show than I am anything that's actually presented on the show. There's a couple of Netflix documentaries that I think are way more interesting and valuable to spend your time looking into. Don't Fuck with Cats was a good one. We've talked about that one a couple times, but that there was some actual value in the research that was done and the effort that was put forth by all the parties that were involved with that situation, as opposed to like literally like all the people that put forth the Tiger King thing. Like, it was really just in an effort to, just shit on everybody. Like, I don't think anybody who made that documentary gave a shit about the cats. You know what I'm saying? And besides like the workers and the, I think the cats really should have been the ones that were being advocated for. And like the fact that the Carol Baskin or whatever, like, that she's talking all this shit about all these other groups that are, have zoos in their backyard or whatever. And I'm like, well, but bitch, you have a fucking zoo in your backyard. Like, you're doing the same.
She says, but I don't breed any animals. I just save them. I don't breed any. That's her big thing.
Right, but you're charging fucking admission to have all these people come in and, like, bitch, you're just as bad. Like, so, I mean, I like, fucking throw them all in jail. I don't give a fuck. Fuck all those people, man.
I agree. I was just curious. I was like, I feel like we talked about it, but I hear so much. It's always on social media everywhere, and I can't get out of my head, so I figured I'd ask your opinion, but I don't think we went into it like this, so I'm glad I asked, because I agree with you for the most part.
For all the workers, I think all the workers, for the most part, should probably, they're just doing a job. At the end of the day, it's these other people who are, kind of pushing their own agenda. There's obviously a couple bad seeds in the group there. But I mean, like the sister husband situation that was going on with the two guys and then kind of keeping them drugged up. Like, all right, first off, he may have kept the one dude who killed himself drugged up a little bit more than the other one, but like everybody was there doing that. Like, I don't think there was any like illusion of the situation that was going on. And
they knew what was happening, 100%.
There is a ton of law enforcement that was well aware of this situation going on, and they didn't raise that. I mean, nobody did shit. They didn't do any of this shit until it was like, oh, okay, well, now we're on the news. That's the whole reason any of that shit happened. Nobody gave a shit about the public impact, the people. That nobody gave a shit about any of that until it was a media frenzy, and then they're like, oh shit, now we have to do something.
For sure. Yeah, you're right. And truthfully, you nailed it right at the beginning, man. If the producers or directors, whoever made that documentary, fucking really lucked out with they're the only ones that really got lucky as far as the pandemic, because literally no one, well, people would watch it. I would have watched it eventually because it's just too bizarre not to click on, but not to the extent it wouldn't get the hype that it's gotten. There's no way.
I mean, I think my wife and I turned it on. I think we watched like the first episode, and I was like, I don't really give a shit about this. And then, like, there's nothing else to do. You're just fucking sitting around in quarantine. It's like, all right, well, we'll put on another episode. And then you get to the point where you're like, all right, I want to see how this fucking
plays out.
Part, So that was about it. Like, I mean, if it wasn't quarantine, I would have never watched the shit. I would have never finished it. I would have started it, but I never would have finished the shit. I do love, like, I love every meme where it's like a picture of like Justin Bieber or like Post Malone, and it's like Joe Exotic's future husband or some shit. Like that shit cracks me the fuck up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I didn't mean to fucking spend that much time on it. We're giving it more hype than it deserves, I guess. But yeah, dude, it's what people are talking about. So I was curious. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was fucking entertaining. So yeah, but you're right. Yeah, move on. And there's a lot better. Don't Fuck with Cats was way better. That shit was amazing.
It's a more compelling story too. Like, all right, with the Joe Exotic thing, like, let's assume that Carol Baskin's guilty or innocent, or Joe Exotic is guilty or innocent. Does it change anyone's life? Does anybody give a shit? Like,
no, right.
You only care because it's a story that you had to watch because you're stuck in your fucking house. It's not compelling. You don't give a shit about these people. And it just doesn't matter to me. Like
yeah, if he's locked up, those cats don't have a better life because now there's a new owner and they're, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you're right. There's completely guilt. What do they call it? Guilty pleasure. Fucking television.
I do feel I feel like he was definitely complicit to some level in trying to get her killed. But I also believe that the other three dudes that were all wrapped up in the plot needed to go to prison. And they're all just walking around like it's nothing. So,
on the newest episode, the parent with the guy with the no legs or whatever, he did say, he goes, "Oh no, this shit's still going on. Like, we're still going to court and all this." So you never know.
Yeah, well, I don't fucking care. I want I want the tigers and shit, the cats and all that shit to be taken care of. And I don't mean like shot in the backyard. I mean like I want them to have a good life, and I don't want them fucking living in like. SeaWorld's like one of the most deplorable things on the planet in my opinion when it comes to animal cruelty. I don't like these people who have backyard exotic fucking zoos. Like, I don't even like we have a zoo membership, which is like, it was very hard to talk me into having a zoo membership. Like, I don't believe in zoos whatsoever. So,
I hate you.
But I want my kid to like see animals and shit. I just wish it was a more healthy environment. But our zoo's
okay, and it's small enough that I don't get too heated. But I've been to some, and dude, it just makes me sad. It's depressing. I hate being there. But you're right. There's some education value, and with the little one, they exist, and we're right a little bit. But yeah, I'm with you on the zoos, man. I fucking hate them.
I literally like when he gets older, I won't get a zoo membership. I'll put him in front of like Planet Earth and be like, look, these are animals that used to exist.
Right.
Because because by the time he really realizes what the fuck's going on, half that shit's gonna be gone anyway. So.
Jesus. All right.
Just looking at the averages here.
Yeah,
so
right.
there's more tigers alive in Texas in captivity than there are in the rest of the world in the wild combined. Just
yeah, it's fucking.
I feel like that's probably a little bit of a problem.
A little bit, as you said. Just a little bit. All right. Well, so fair enough. So fuck Joe Exotic. Fuck Tiger King.
Jeff,
we're
Lowe
awesome.
and all those other motherfuckers, man. Fuck them all.
Fuck them all.
Except that dude with no legs, the woman who identifies as a man. I didn't know that until we watched the extra episode, but she lost her arm, or he lost his arm. Saf or whatever.
Yeah, Saf, he got his arm bitten off.
Yeah, like there's a couple like the sideline people where I'm like, you guys just got thrown in the middle of a shitstorm, and I feel bad for you. Kind of pretty much the rest of them, like throw them in the wood chipper. I don't give a fuck about them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's our episode on Tiger King, folks. So do us a favor and don't suggest Tiger King, because you just got it.
Yeah.
But if you want to suggest other topics,
you won't get anything else. You won't get anything else on a Tiger King episode but that right there.
Oh man, see, this is the problem with Zoom. I just had the perfect segue into the fucking social medias, and you didn't hear it. I said, well, whatever the fuck. So, hey, if you do want to suggest something other than Tiger King, hit us up on fucking Facebook or Instagram at
Based on True Events Podcast.
We're on the Twitter.
Podcast Boat, BOTE.
That's right. You can check out our new episodes, and we've got some videos. Some of our Zoom quarantine videos are actually officially posted up on YouTube. You can find that at
Based on True Events BOTE.
Based on True Events Podcast BOTE, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
Just Google Based on True Events Podcast. Yeah. You'll find it.
Just make sure you don't go to Based on a True Story or whatever the fuck the other one is.
Whatever the other one is, yeah.
There's one that's close to us, but
yeah, right on.
If you don't see you're in the wrong place.
You're in the wrong place, bitches. Turn around. You could also go to our Facebook group, Rock the Boat. We're still doing interaction there. We still have the I Wrote for Boat. This is a T-shirt, another embroidery original.
Right, because you're a sewer now.
Yeah, because I'm officially embroiderer apparently.
A seamstress.
Yeah. Well, I got to learn the things, and I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone and make some shirts. And this is your quote, by the way. I love this. You only said it like one time, but I was like, oh, that just stuck with me. I was like, shirt.
Well, I was trying to read it when we came on, and I was unaware that was a quote that I was being. No, I mean I'm 100% sure that I've said that. I just didn't know we were using that as a quote. So
yeah. Well, if you're not watching the YouTube video, the shirt says boat and it says we're here for the shits and G's.
Yep.
That's what for those of you that are listening to the audio only. What else we got going on? Your brainchild with the we're putting our suggestions or your suggestions online and letting you guys choose the order that we do them in.
Yep. The 4 topics we kind of let you guys vote and see how it goes, man. You guys are suggesting and picking what you guys want to hear. So it's your podcast as much as it is ours at this point. So
yeah, that's right. I like the way you put that. That's exactly right. And by the way, the previous 2 episodes were the number 1 and number 2 voted, and I couldn't be happier because, well, I loved the one that I did because it was so weird, but it tied in some stranger things, and it was just it was probably the weirdest topic that I had done, I feel. But I also loved that you gave Shep the opportunity to do the Antarctica spiel. So those suggestions were fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So far, you guys voted on the right ones, and I think, I don't want to give it away, but I'll let you get into it. But tonight, I think you're doing number 3, I believe. Yep. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm doing the 3rd most requested episode of the 4. So, and saying that, it sounds like it's kind of like we're scraping the bottom, but
no,
they're actually like all 4 of the suggestions were good suggestions. They would have been episodes anyway. It's just really you guys are just picking the order at this point.
And we have other suggestions. These were just the 4 that we put up for vote.
Right.
There's still plenty suggestions. There's no bottom of the barrel as far as your suggestions go.
Right. So we got 4 more suggestions that we'll post after you're done with your episode, and then we'll go, start the circle of life over again.
Which, by the way, that episode, I started it today researching. Fucking hell, dude. It's not fun. For some reason, I was kind of like, oh, maybe that's going to be kind of cool and really dark. And dude, I should have known when you sent me the title. I'm not going to give anything away, but holy hell. So, dude, I've been in like a weird, like dark place. So hopefully this will be a little bit brighter.
Yeah, man. I'm really glad that you sent me a message so the topic that I'm doing tonight is CIA cover-ups, or CIA, I guess, in general. Cover-ups is kind of a big thing. But you said that wasn't something that you could find a really good angle on going into. I can understand why, so I'm happy to take this one. Much happier than doing the episode that you're going to have to do. So
I should have taken CIA. I'll just say that.
Yeah, bro.
I should have taken CIA.
So, as I'm doing the CIA cover-ups, there's so much. Like, this is such just a vague suggestion. Like, dude, you can start anywhere with this, and you fucking can end up anywhere with this. So I'm staying in my wheelhouse a little bit with this conversation, I believe. So if you don't know, the CIA, or the Central Intelligence Agency, is a product of the American basically protection system. So the FBI is really in charge of domestic investigations that generally tend to be a little bit more widespread than a local law enforcement unit would deal with. The CIA itself is usually tasked with foreign entities that they're trying to protect the United States from, or our allies, or basically whoever the fuck they flip a coin and say this person's in the good book today and on the bad book tomorrow. Just for a little,
they mainly deal with like international shit, right? Versus
they're not allowed. Technically, they are not allowed to deal with domestic issues.
Right. Okay. Right.
Unless it's espionage, in which case that person is no longer considered an American citizen. They're considered I forget the term that they use, but it's like a foreign combatant or something.
A spy.
Yeah, espionage in general, treason in general, they will deal with that. And this is like kind of their mission statement. Whether or not they stick to those parameters is a kind of a different conversation altogether. So just in a very high level, I'm going to kind of discuss some of the shit that has been attributed to them, and then I'm going to start talking about some of the stuff that okay, I'm going to talk about some of the other stuff that I'm going to talk about is stuff that has come up on my radar in my travels, and stuff that I kind of find a little bit more interesting. So this whole episode is a lot of it is conjecture and conspiracy theories, which in general I really don't like to do conspiracy theories because to me most of them end up in a stalemate. Like it's hard unless there's something that says, okay, this happened and now we have proof. That's really the only way that you get to the answer of a conspiracy theory.
Right.
So the CIA is kind of a catch-all for basically fucking everything. Like, you know, there's some conspiracy theories about the CIA that Bigfoot is a fucking has something to do with like an experiment that they were doing and went wrong. And I just even though we have stories of Bigfoot that, you know, predate the CIA by a vast period of time, but whatever. There's all sorts of craziness that's on the internet all the time. Now, when I was saying that the CIA, this, by the way, fairly dangerous episode to do. Because if you just make some blatant statement and just happens to fall a little close to home, this isn't a group that you really want, like,
oh, fuck with them, yeah, right.
Fuck with it, you know, because you'll just all of a sudden disappear. But so a lot of those like major conspiracy theories, like I don't like fucking with them because, in theory, I don't like conspiracy theories. You know, we've had
there's no ending because it wouldn't be a conspiracy theory if there was you know what I'm saying? Like there's no answer. So the conversation, it just goes and, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, like we've talked about, like conspiracy theories in general are not really my thing because there's so many moving parts usually in a conspiracy theory. And I feel like it's really hard to make that a reality, that is something that could continue on because people suck. People tell stories at bars. People tell stories in bed. People tell stories to their friends. People tell stories on their deathbed. And usually, you know, a lot of these conspiracy theory stories kind of start there. Like, I was in a bar and I was talking to Jim and Jim said this. And like, you know, it's all this shit. So it's hard to sort. It's hard to sort the fact from the fiction a lot of times. Anybody who tells you that they know 100% of all the facts about something, then they're a fucking liar. So that's usually the buyer beware disclaimer I give for stuff like this. But since we're digging real deep into conspiracy theory stories, here we go. Yeah. So originally when I said that the FBI is kind of tasked with domestic investigations and CIA is tasked with,
sorry, go ahead.
Tasked with international investigations. Since 2001, there's been a lot of heat on a couple things that have happened. They've basically been caught wiretapping American citizens. They've also been caught reading emails. Sometimes this stuff is kind of shuffled off under the Department of Homeland Security or other areas. Like even the FBI has caught some bullshit about this. But pretty much the FBI is they're really kind of dealing with like domestic terrorism, whereas the CIA deals with maybe terrorists that show up in the United States and kind of hide out as a cell, and then hijack planes and fly them into buildings, so to speak. I'm not getting into the 9/11 conversation. You guys can.
I started going research. Yeah, thank you.
Do your own fucking research on that. I'm not fucking doing that one. Okay. So,
thank you.
I'm going to kind of leave it at that. Like, there's like allegations of them lying to Congress, which they've kind of been caught doing. There's this and that. There's a ton of shit on just basically the shady comings and goings of the CIA. Now, I will say this before I do the next part of this story. I actually agree with some of that. I don't obviously agree with like terrorism. I don't agree with torture. I don't agree with, certain things along those lines. But I definitely believe that there are certain things to keep a country safe that you can't really broadcast on the news every day. if you're a counterintelligence agency tasked with the job of collecting intelligence, some of your methods may not be above board, and they're things that you're not going to want to broadcast because you need them to be effective down the road. So that is my
I'm already with that.
that's
I'm already with
my
that.
disclaimer on that. You know, like I don't really agree with a lot of their tactics, but I understand why they exist, or why they why they have to kind of push the envelope in certain areas, because it's like, well, you know, it's 375 million people that we're trying to keep alive. So occasionally some shit's gonna suck.
We made the call. Like, hey, give us a little bit of slack. We're doing it for there's a good reason behind it. So I'm with you on that. That's fair.
They do have the extraordinary rendition, which is that has kind of come into a lot of fire since 2001. That is the capture of HVTs, or high value targets, in foreign nations and extraditing them to the United States for either trial or imprisonment. The point of that being under fire lately is because a lot of times they don't make it to the United States, or in transit they have a couple of stops along the way, where those in those stops certain levels of torture may be used to try to acquire information. So if
Nothing wrong with a little waterboarding to get some info.
Well, you know, I feel like that's kind of like a hot topic, a hot button topic. You know, I think a lot of people know about it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it. You know,
it happens. Yeah, whatever. Like,
I feel like probably in the United States, our torture, and this is going to sound horrible, but I feel like our torture is probably a little softer than any other culture that were to try to extract information from you. So here in America, we might look at it as being cruel and unusual punishment. In other countries, they're like, that's a vacation day. So
right.
I'm not backing it. I'm 100% not backing it. I'm just saying, with a little perspective, some of these things that they've been accused of, like loud music and sleep deprivation, other countries are cutting off fingers and shit. So just saying.
I was gonna say, like, come on, we got to stop being so whiny about certain things. When it's meant to protect your ass, stop complaining about it.
Now, if it was done to one of my family members, I'd be singing a different song. But you know, here we are. Now we're going to kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff about the CIA. And most of the stuff that I tried to I'm going to try to talk about is stuff that we found out through the Freedom of Information Act releases of documents. There's been, you know, hundreds of thousands of documents that have been released, so especially over the last 20, 30 years, through the Freedom of Information Act requests. And one of the more interesting ones is the CIA's recruitment of former Nazis. We obviously did the Nazis in Space episode. You know, Werner von Braun episode.
That episode, by the way, time out. If you haven't listened to the Werner von Braun, I forgot, I guess it was titled Space Nazi or something. I think it was what the title was. But go back and look for a title that has space and Nazi in it. Listen to that episode when you're done with this one, or you could pause it, I guess, technically. But listen to it. It's phenomenal, because I knew nothing about that dude, and I was floored. Like, halfway through it, once you started hitting the actual body counts and, like, it started really registering, dude, I thought about that one the other day, and I was like, holy shit. And my reaction into it was 100%, like, that was all, like, original. Like, I love the way I listened to it. I go, oh, yeah, like, I was fucking floored, man. I loved that episode.
So I
hated the dude, but I love the episode.
Like, one of the things that I thought was interesting is, like, we posted something on social media about that, and somebody kind of tried to, like, fire back at us. about shitting on him.
Yeah.
And I think we were both kind of like, well, you realize he's a mass murderer. Like, he's a Nazi, right? Like, like you're I was like, I think we left it kind of like cold, but it was like, you're back in the wrong horse, and you're doing it with the wrong people. So
yeah, we took the high road, and the high road for us was a very cynical remark back, and then that was it.
Yeah,
we didn't like tear into him or nothing, but honestly, it wasn't worth it because the comment was literally backing the dude like 100%. Like, why would you? But NASA's program, it's like, bitch, he's a Nazi. It outweighs the fucking.
Listen
rocket,
listen to the episode, and then come back and tell me I'm off base at all.
Right. Fuck that dude.
so in the idea of the CIA recruiting Nazis, I grabbed this point because we've already kind of discussed it with Operation Paperclip, which was bringing a lot of elite Nazis to the United States, kind of post World War II. And that was definitely in the guise of trying to keep them from the hands of Russia and trying to advance the American military, structure, like space exploration, all those things. American rocketry, which was really just literally every one of our rockets until like the 1980s, I think, were just German rockets where they took the swastika off and put an American flag on it. But the reason I picked this to talk about, and didn't talk about it in the Space Nazi episode, was that there was a memo that was actually sent out by the CIA during Operation Paperclip, and their concerns were not about the criminal activities of the Nazis, not the war crimes, not the violations of the Geneva Convention. None of those things were on the list of things that were concerning to the CIA. The things that were concerning to the CIA was that when they brought them to the United States, they set all these Nazis up with new, basically, lives if they wanted them, especially for some of the higher level Nazis. They kind of needed to be like, well, this guy used to be, like, so they kind of gave him different backstories and different lives. And so the major concern of the CIA was not their criminal history, but would they be recognized for who they were? And there was a whole series of ways to keeping the identities of these Nazis hidden from the general public in case one of them got spotted. They had basically shell game of move them around and keep them out of the public eye.
They have to be. So there's a lot of fucking Nazis. So there was
over 1,000 Nazis that were brought.
Well, that's insane. First of all, but what I was saying was that in general, like in Germany, there was a lot of Nazis, and so for someone to be able to go, yeah, I recognize that motherfucker, that means you had to be really high up or very involved. That means you're not a good Nazi. You're a really bad Nazi who's done really fucked up shit. And so these aren't like, just like some of the low, fucking on the totem pole Nazis. These are like fucking Nazis of Nazis. You know what I mean? Like the worst.
There's some of the worst of the worst that you can get. But so some of the lower statistics on it was, upwards of 1,000 Nazi scientists, military, all sorts of Nazis were brought over to the States to basically run infrastructure in the U.S. And that was kind of spearheaded by that Operation Paperclip, and that was a CIA project to basically keep America up in the front, in the driver's seat. Wow. There is some discussion about the CIA setting up basically the drug trade throughout the entire world. South America, also running opium and heroin through Afghanistan, and even during like Vietnam, and running a lot of their systems through Laos in a project called Air America, where they used basically fucking pilots from the United States to run drugs all throughout Southeast Asia, and then smuggle them into the United States or into whatever country they needed to smuggle them into. Technically, we weren't supposed to be in places like Cambodia and Laos and stuff like that, but the CIA was rumored to have had quite a bit of projects at least flying over the airspace of these countries that were not considered non-combatant countries during the Vietnam War. And then South America, there was, I'm sorry?
I got a question.
Yeah.
So because of the Zoom thing, I'm trying to be good about not cutting you off. So I'm like waiting for you. I'm like, hey, wait, fucking, hey.
Just cut me off.
Well, no, one, you're in a flow, but no, I want the audio to be clear. The point of it was, so basically it was just dirty. Like, it wasn't for any benefit for the American people. Like, there wasn't anything else to the story. It was like they were literally just making money. Is that is that the claim or I mean,
okay? So how do I put this very gently?
Right.
The annual budget for the CIA on the books in the United States in the year, and this was like 2013, I think. It was like $18 billion. Okay.
Damn.
That sounds like a lot of money, right? But you're running clandestine operations all over the world where you can't have a paper trail of money. So how do you support a multifaceted, high-level black ops situation throughout the entire world? You do it by running drugs or running guns.
Wow.
Okay. So during the Cold War, the United States supplied Afghanistan with weapons and training to fight the Russians. Okay.
Right.
And the Afghanistani army repelled the Russian army and basically survived that occupation because of the work that the CIA did to help undermine the Russian army. Fast forward to post 9/11, and you have a bunch of Afghanistani rebels that we are now fighting under the guise of the Patriot Act and counterterrorism, that we as a government trained and basically armed for years and years. Okay?
Great.
So now yeah, so that, I mean, so there's also like always the rumor that this is this is an urban legend, I guess, but essentially, you know who Pablo Escobar is? He was considered one of like the biggest drug dealers of South America of all time. Rumor had it that he was a CIA operative that was put down there in Colombia to run the drug trade for the CIA, and they would funnel money out of his operation for stuff that they would, for jobs that they were doing and operations that they were doing in South America. Well, he just kind of went off the reservation. He was like, no, this is mine now, and kind of did his own thing. So there was always the rumor that Pablo Escobar was actually a U.S. plant that kind of went rogue.
Wow, I've never heard that. In fact, I think somebody actually suggested Pablo Escobar at one point, and I was like, well, it seems big, but I also think that everybody knows the story of him, but clearly maybe not, because I haven't heard that at all. So that's kind of that would be cool to kind of dig into. I mean,
yeah,
dude, if he went rogue, dude, wow, like, wasn't he doing that? Wasn't he like running his shit for like a long time?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So like they just couldn't catch him. Like but anyway, that is a whole other episode. I mean, yeah. But.
Well, I mean, okay. So if you're gonna, this is taking a weird turn, but if you're gonna do the war on drugs and you're going to have a publicly funded war on drugs, start the DEA. You're going to basically get people to vote for the war on drugs for decades. What better situation is there than to take it from both sides? You keep a planted operative running the drugs into the United States and funneling money off the situation. Then you're taking taxpayer dollars and funneling that off for the war on drugs. And you have a person that you keep in complete control and safe from everyone because it's a cash cow. The only time that you go down there and get him is if he stops listening to you.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When you said he went rogue, I was wondering how long. Like, did he go rogue immediately? Yeah, who knows, right? Yeah.
If he just stops giving anyone any money or listening,
then they're going to come after you.
Yeah. But other than that, why would you? If the story is true.
So the rumor could be true that he was running the game with the CIA for a long time, and then finally said, "Fuck it, fuck y'all," and then they took him down.
Right.
All right. Interesting.
Or you need a figurehead, or you need a win. Like, hey, you've been doing a great job. But there is a classically there you can look this up online. There's a picture of him, Pablo Escobar, and his child standing in front of the White House in the 80s or something.
Damn.
Like when he was like on like the top 10 most wanted list or whatever. And there's like pictures of him standing in front of the White House. Like he's not inside the gate, but he's standing in front of the building. And I think that between the CIA and the FBI, if he's one of the most wanted men in the world, that they probably would have had an idea that he was in the United States and probably wouldn't have been that hard to pick him up.
Right.
So,
wow, interesting. Oh, yeah. Oh,
so
right.
there, CIA is also supposedly responsible for, removing certain leaders of countries and implanting their own
replacement
yeah, right. People that a lot of this stuff, man, it's all hearsay. It's all third person information. Like, it's all assumptions, people drawing lines. That's why I don't like this subject that much, because look, if there's something in the Freedom of Information Act stuff that says, hey, they did this and we have it on fucking tape, like, cool, I'm good with that. The rest of this is all like, these are urban legends, like the Pablo Escobar story. That could have just been some dude that lived down there that fucking ran the shit and did it better than anybody else did. But there's this urban legend that he was a CIA operative, that it benefited the United States in the revenue from both areas, and that's why that went on for so long. So
this is one of those that I feel like, and you're right, this could be kind of dangerous, but I don't think they care about little old us. And we're not making claims. We're simply doing a story, and it has some rumors and whatever. So I think we're all right. But this is one of those that if someone in a certain position knew too much, my guess is that person is no longer around to tell that story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't feel like the CIA leaves a lot of loose ends.
Right.
Especially like foreign loose ends. You know what I'm saying? Like, they might kind of think about it twice, but if it's a domestic citizen, but I think like foreign citizens are like, nah, man, that dude just never made the plane. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened.
So now some of the stuff that these are, this is one more urban legend, and then I'll get into, I guess, like, I'll kind of quick fire the next little bit after that, because that's the stuff that I'm actually a little bit more interested in. I find a little bit more interesting. So the moon landing and basically Ronald Reagan's Star Wars defense program are both rumored to be CIA falsifications. And this is why they're considered, this is an urban legend, but if you look at the math of it, it actually makes a lot of sense. So you make your decision. If you're a moon lander person, then great. I'm not telling you how to believe. I'm not telling you, anything, but this is the conspiracy theory when it comes to the American space program and the CIA. So the idea is that the moon landing was faked, and the Star Wars program that Ronald Reagan had put together, or was trying to put together in the 80s, was a front, essentially. And the idea being, Russia was so far ahead of us when it came to their space program that we really needed to win. But more than us needing a win, we needed Russia to lose, and lose on a major scale. And so how do you do that? Well, you do that by saying, okay, we're going to funnel a whole bunch of money into our space program, which is really, they're just taking that space program money and putting it wherever they want, right? And then they fake the moon landing, and then they fake the Star Wars defense program in an effort to one-up Russia, where none of that money is actually going into either of those programs. And it never had the intention of going into either of those programs. But what it does is it forces Russia's hand and makes Russia funnel all their fucking money into a new defensive program and stance, and the idea that they have to do it to regain strength on a world stage. And so the idea was that both of those items happened and were falsified by the CIA to bankrupt Russia, which happened in the early 90s. And that was the collapse of collapse.
If that is true, if that is true, pretty brilliant. I mean,
well,
it's some fucked up, but it's pretty brilliant. I mean, they hired Kubrick, and then hey, dude, well done. if that was falsified, like you said, then you did it. They did it really well.
Well,
but
if you look at it for not even a fraction, but a drop in the bucket, like pennies in the bucket of cost to fake these two items, whereas you can basically funnel trillions of dollars back into the country in whatever guise that you want, stealth technologies that you're actually developing, Air Force, naval, and if you really do look at a lot of the things that were happening in the 80s and early 90s when it came to our military, we were making some pretty big leap forwards with technology, which some can argue that is based on hey, we were building up NASA, so all this other stuff got a whole lot better, or you're pouring trillions of dollars that were supposed to have gone into NASA over the course of 25 years into your military structure, and now we have all this really cool military shit because we never paid to go to the moon ever.
Well, for the record, for the listeners, I call bullshit on that. I just was saying that if they did do that, pretty brilliant. We landed on the moon. All right, that's my stance.
There
Just for the
are
record.
there are a couple of things in the moon landing story. I've said it before. There's a couple things in the moon landing story that I've never really heard resolved in a very coherent way from any of the people that were involved. But I don't feel like you can fake the moon landing with as many moving parts, like people, staff, administration. I don't think that you can actually pull that off without it being a much like they would have proved it fake, like
Yeah.
and we would all know it was fake by this point. By 2020, we would all be like, yeah, that's some bullshit. Like, we never did that.
Right. Well, we talked about it on the Kubrick episode that I did. You brought it up, I think, and it was like somebody would have squeaked. Somebody would have talked to the wrong, it would have leaked. There's too many people involved to make that, to even fake that. Just the set alone, you know what I mean? Somebody would have talked, and it would have, yeah. So I agree with you.
So
we landed on the moon.
But there are some actual like scientific issues that I have with us going to the moon that I don't feel like have ever really been resolved. And I feel like those kind of things are the reason that some people still have some issues with the moon landing. Anyway, moving ahead, that lasted a lot longer than I really intended it to. So on to two programs that actually are considered factual programs linked to the CIA and revealed by the Freedom of Information Act requests is the MK Ultra and Project Blue Book. If you spent any time on any kind of ancient aliens or conspiracy theory forums, or you know about both of these projects, but for everyone who doesn't know, MK Ultra was a program in the 50s, 60s, and 70s by the CIA, and it was basically a mind control program. Is one branch of MK Ultra, and they used everything from what were assumed to be people with psychic abilities, all the way down to psychedelics and other kinds of pharmaceuticals, to do all kinds of basically information extraction from individuals, mind control, warped reality situations, basically tampering with the human mind, whether it be through a psychic set of parameters, pharmaceutical, or psychedelic. There's something like 20,000 pages that were released on some of the projects and experiments that they did. And that was just one like report that I read, but some of the shit that they did was pretty fucked up, man. Early testing with like LSD on all sorts of different subsects of the population. If you really want to dig into it, MK Ultra's got some mad scientist-y kind of Tesla coil in the background.
And for those of you that have actually partaken in any sort of LSD, it's probably a whole different world when it's not a choice, when it's not your choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or you don't know that it's happening, or I would even venture to say that like in a lab setting, it's got to be really disturbing.
Oh yeah, you're laughing at that point. You're shit, dude, that'd be horrible. Bad trip.
There's the whole like white coat syndrome where everybody, that people have, that it's like they see a doctor walk in a white coat and their blood pressure spikes and their heart rate goes up just because they're seeing the white coat. Imagine that on a high level hallucinogen. So that's MK Ultra. That was actually proven and linked to the CIA in the 70s. It's rumored that was discontinued in the 70s, but who fuck knows, man. They could have just gotten really good at it and changed the name of the program because everybody knew about it. Project Blue Book, another one that I touched on. This was actually kind of originally listed as an Air Force project. But the Air Force obviously works very closely with Langley, which Langley is where the CIA's headquarters is located. But the CIA, who's in charge of any foreign type of aggressor, Project Blue Book was the government-based research of UFOs. And this obviously started somewhere around the 1940s when Roswell happened and stretched until arguably into the early 80s, but probably has at least some branch or some existent form today. But through the Freedom of Information Act, they did find out a lot of information about Project Blue Book when some of the time periods had lapsed, and it was like, okay, you guys can keep that classified forever, so we're going to start pulling these documents. Some of the really interesting statistics about that. This was released. It's called Report 14 or whatever. But it was there was all these statistics, and it was like, 85% of this is, this, but like whatever. But only 1.5% of all the UFOs reported were ever really tracked to the point where it said that this person is a crackpot, like this person is insane, like it's bullshit. Like only 1.5% of all the UFO sightings throughout the course of the research done by Project Blue Book were ever attributed to basically a loony, which if you look at it in popular media, it's almost always a crazy motherfucker who's got the UFO sighting, right?
Right.
So that, I felt like that statistic was pretty interesting, that they really only narrowed that down to like 1.5%. And that's their books. That's not them, like, that's not like somebody coming in and being like, oh no, this is no, like according to the Air Force and the CIA, only 1.5% were ever decided that no, this person's actually crazy as shit. Off their meds, fucking.
Yeah. You don't hear about those stories. It's always the whack job. Very, very. Although there is a few about like retired, decorated, officers or what have you. But most of them are Billy Joe Bub, out in the fields of BFE somewhere or some shit. Right. But it's not fucking aliens. Like most of the time.
The other statistic that I found that was very interesting was that 22% of all of the UFO sightings that were investigated by Project Blue Book, which is the Air Force, the CIA, very high level investigators, people who are familiar with, high level science and aeronautics and all the things, listed that 22% of all unknown UFO sightings remain unknown and unexplained after all the research is said and done. 22%.
22% are still unknown. Wow.
Considered unknown or unexplainable.
Wow.
In the U.S. government. So,
that's high. That's a big percentage.
Say what you will. That's, other countries are much more progressive when it comes to like talking about UFOs and this and that. Like the Canadian Prime Minister before the guy that's sitting in office now, he was like avid, like, oh, aliens are here, everybody knows it, yada yada yada. I don't know if I'm going that far. But I do find it interesting that in a country that is traditionally tight-lipped as our government is when it comes to our secrets and our knowledge of things, the general public's usually about 10 to 15 years at least behind the curve of what I feel like our government actually knows. So the fact that them coming out with a statistic like 22% of this shit, we can't tell you what the fuck it is. I think that's a pretty big number.
That's a huge
pretty
number.
telling, actually.
What's funny is that if our president currently now fucking started spieling off about aliens, he'd fall into that 1.5% real quick. Fucking loony.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are, those are two things that I chose to have on the list because there's actual documentation. There's paperwork from these programs that have been released to the American people, and it actually has some pretty fucking interesting shit. So like when I talk about like not wanting to really talk about conspiracy theories and stuff, it's not because I don't think that A, our country is capable of doing that shit, or B, that we have done shit like that. I completely 100% agree that there is stuff that they don't tell us that they're doing on a regular basis. However, I feel like it's a circle. It's a dog chasing its tail most of the time. Like, yeah, this makes sense. Like the story of the moon landing and the Star Wars program. That makes a lot of sense. If you were to tell me that story and you take away all the little bits and pieces around that story, I'd definitely start asking questions, but I can see the thin line of understanding behind,
right,
how you can figure that out. Like I can understand where that conspiracy built from.
Well, yeah, for sure. I enjoy conspiracy theories. I don't necessarily want to do an episode on it because I don't go one way or the other, and I'm easily swayed. I think I've said that before. Like that's my issue with it. For you, I get it. It probably make your head spin because you're like, no, I want a fucking answer, and you're not giving me one, or there's always something to counter. It never. There's no answer. There's no ending.
So I think my big thing with like conspiracy theories in general, I'm not at the top of my field when it comes to like, I'm not in like aerospace engineer. I'm not an astrophysicist. I'm not a cryptozoologist. I'm not a paleozoologist. I'm not anybody. You know what I'm saying?
You're not an ologist of any form.
Right. I'm a non-ologist.
Right.
I have strong opinions. I have what I believe and what I think, which I like the term I think this. I don't like the term I believe this. Beliefs are real hard to change. Thoughts are a little easier. I think that was Dogma, Kevin Smith movie.
Nice, yeah.
But the point of all of the conspiracy theories, it's kind of a circle all the time. And Alan Moore, he's a really prolific graphic novel, right? Well, he's a comic book guy, but most of his stuff's been turned into graphic novels. He wrote V for Vendetta. He wrote Watchmen. He wrote a huge arc in Swamp Thing. Like but he's like a recluse, like a hermit and shit. Like he doesn't agree to like let anybody use his stuff. like he fucking hates the establishment. He hates everyone. But he's got one of the best quotes I've ever heard, and he's like, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said the reason that people love the gray alien theory or the Jewish banking conspiracy or the faked moon landing or this and that, like the reason that people hang on to these conspiracy theories is because they need that kind of bad guy,
Yeah, right.
They need this overarching story where there's a bad guy and there's a good guy and there's this and that. He's like, the real thing is, and this is actually much scarier and why people come up with conspiracy theories, is because the world is just chaos. Like, shit happens and then we have to fucking figure some shit out and we don't know shit. He's like, that's a much scarier story, but that's why we build these fucking grandiose ideas.
Yeah.
I said paraphrase.
People can't handle the truth,
Yeah, I said paraphrase, but I really just made that way longer than what he actually said. It was like two or three sentences I turned into like 3 paragraphs. But
Whatever. We got the gist of it, though. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, as long as the point was made, and it was. But that's true, though. I can see that. I mean, shit, dude. I mean, that's people don't like knowing that it's not okay. You know what I'm saying?
It's easier
scary
to believe that aliens are running our government and controlling our planet than it is to believe that there's a bunch of greedy fucks only out for themselves and nobody knows what the fuck anybody's doing. Like, that's the second part of that story is way scarier than aliens running our country or running the planet.
Running the planet, yeah, it's true.
So that
shit.
I mean, literally, this could be 9 episodes. There's so much shit with the CIA. They're, like I said at the beginning of this, they're the fucking catch-all for all the bullshit that happens, all the conspiracy theories, Bigfoot to fucking moon landings, fucking everything. So I kind of tried to do like a little bit of a circle with it. Like I try to say, okay, here's some of the stuff they've been accused of. Here's some of the fucking urban legends about them. Here's some of the stuff they're known for. And here's, here at the center is stuff that they've actually proven were urban legends and have now kind of been brought to light as something that really happened.
I like it that you did it that way because you covered a bunch of stuff in what, each one of those small little examples or whatever could be an entire episode or two. So, and you and I both agree that we're not, anyway. So I like that you hit on all of them and you gave some rumors or some hearsay, whatever, and then you gave some factual stuff as well. So I like the way you went. I think I would have probably found one story and just done it, and it would have been way too short to cram all that information in. You know what I mean? It would have been rushed. So I'm glad you did it this way. And I didn't know some of that. I mean,
yeah, I mean, look, if any of those subjects interest you, you can look them up. Google's a motherfucker. I imagine that you're going to end up with a lot of dead ends. As a counterintelligence agency that is one of the most well-funded on the planet, I imagine that they only give up their secrets when they fucking have to. So I don't know.
Or want to. Yeah.
Or want to. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of dead ends in your research.
Although I will say the Pablo Escobar one probably interests me the most.
I mean, it could be an urban legend. It could be 100% true. From a completely financial aspect of things, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
So, especially when the CIA has kind of been known for setting up drug trades and foreign arms trades around the world.
In theory, don't come find us. In theory.
In theory, yeah. There's a fucking movie called Air America with Mel Gibson, Robert Downey Jr. about them running drugs in fucking Vietnam.
When you said Air America, I don't remember the plot of it, but I assumed that's what the movie was about.
So, I mean, at least that piece of it, like,
we're safe. Yeah, right.
I'm not whistleblowing on any of these subjects. I have not connected any dots that no one else has. Like, these are all very surface level.
Just because I've not heard it doesn't mean other people aren't very familiar. Yeah, right. Yeah. Especially the CIA. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the CIA. This is literally like conspiracy theories 101.
Right. For beginners.
This is chapter 2 CIA. Like, we're not in the advanced course. It's not,
Right.
I'm not telling you like the social security numbers of all the operatives that have done certain things. Like, that would get me killed.
Right.
And I'm really glad I don't have any of that information. Nor would I ever want it. Do not send me a message. Do not send me a message on social media telling me anything that, like, I'm putting CIA to bed and I'm not going back.
That's right. And thank you for not making, when you started talking about 9/11. I was like, uh-oh, please no. And then I was like, phew, okay, we're good. He's not going there, thank God. I was like, I don't want to talk about that.
No. So, all right.
Well, there it is. Voted number three voted top voted.
CIA cover-ups, conspiracy theories. I
don't remember who suggested that, but I think it was vague. I don't think they had like a certain story in mind. So I think the cool thing is you probably covered, if they did have one, you probably covered it. You know what I'm saying? At least a little bit.
I'm sure it was like, watch, it'll probably be like, no, man, I wanted the CIA cover-up of Bigfoot. Like, all right, no. Like,
nah, we already did a Bigfoot episode.
No. So, all right,
Shep is not going to let us do another Bigfoot episode. Trust me.
They have to find that hairy fucker before I'm doing a fucking episode on the Bigfoot again. I'm not fucking doing it.
There it is. Oh shit! All right, cool, man. That was good. A lot of information in a short amount of time, though. So I'm surprised you got it all in there. Well, actually, I don't even know how fucking long we've been going, but it doesn't feel like it's been it's probably about an hour. Shit.
Yeah,
so well done, sir. Well done, CIA. Check.
All right,
Tune in next week for a really fun, very uplifting, not depressing at all, fucking fourth voted subject. So tune in.
Just for the record, I'm probably going to mute your side of the phone call while you do your episode.
Dude, it's bad. So we'll just
I'm gonna sit here and play PlayStation while you tell that story. And every like 15 minutes, I'll just look at the screen and be like, really?
Whoa.
Wow.
No, just you got to make it a little bit more like,
shit.
Yeah, like that would fit in better with the story than like a surprise. It would be more like a disgust. So as long as you do that the entire time. Well, dude, it's not gonna be like cracking jokes, so it's all right. It's not like I need a fucking laugh track, on this one. So, anyway.
Yeah,
anyway.
All right. I know what's coming, so that's why I'm like,
right. Next week, puppies and rainbows, folks. Good shit, man. See you then.
Unicorn Parts Bill makes a reappearance, folks.
That's right. All right, man. Good shit. I'll see you.